Doug Lamb, what's going on? Hunter Scott, good to see you guys on here. Get some people to join in here real quick. We'll get this thing fired up. I think I sound like a broken record, but I hope this weather holds off. I don't know what you guys are getting, but man, is it raining and storming here. So far, the internet speed looks like it's all right. Hopefully, it just stays that way. Old Anthony, good to see you on here, buddy. Gonna have a pretty good show tonight. It's about that time getting these annual plots. I think we've got about 4 inches of rain today so far. So planting the 1st of August doesn't have me too bothered right now. Old Scott, good to see you on here, bud. You got enough rain to fill an empty lake. You got that right. Doug, you got 3 inches. I know where you're at. I see it's been coming across from you guys over to me. It started way before I woke up this morning. It hasn't stopped, and it was just. I just came down here to the room. It was pouring. It won't quit. Got too much stuff I need to do in the food plots to be doing this stuff. But I'm not complaining because it's raining, because usually right now it's a drought, so I can't complain. And it's been a good, steady, good rain too. What I call a food plot rain. I love these rains that. Yeah, we do have some downpours, a little bit of runoff, but man, it's just been a good soaking rain. It's gonna help a lot. I can literally hear my clover growing right now. I can hear it. Kevin, good to see you on here, bud. You're not getting anything in Ohio yet? All right, guys, we got a pretty good show here tonight. We got the one and only Kyle Weeder from Adrenaline going to be jumping on here with us. I know every name that I'm reading on here, all of you know who Kyle Weeder is. But some of the people I haven't commented, if you don't know Kyle, he's been in the industry for many, many, many years, doing it all on its own. This guy is phenomenal when it comes to, getting the content, producing his own content, doing all his own editing. I mean, it's just amazing what this guy has done. And he might have to say I was wrong about one thing, but I think it's been 17 years. I think 17 years he's been doing it. Kyle and I talk a lot, and I just love what he brings to the food plot industry. I just watched some footage that he just texted me over. That the Antler King footage is unbelievable. I mean, how he stages and sets up for these deer using food plots, using shield type products. It's just amazing. So I'm going to have him talk a lot about that. And I wish I could show some of the videos that he has actually sent me before. But with Restream, it will not allow me to share a video. I wish they'd hurry up and change that. It's only still photos only. But we'll bring him on here and let's see what he's got to say. Let me see if I can find him first. What's going on?
Hey man, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
Oh gosh, with an intro like that, I'm just like gonna exit stage left now.
But hey, I got to know, is it was 17 years, right?
Yeah, actually,
Right.
Adrenaline hit the airwaves in 2008. So whatever that is.
Okay. Well, I'm not very good at math, so I'm sticking with 17 years. So
I think that's pretty good. I'll take it. Hi, Doug. Doug's Lamb said hi. How you doing, buddy? I talked to him a little bit once in a while on Messenger about things. He's an Illinois boy too. So yeah, yes, we're all Illinois boys. So Robbie, I got a game plan change for you a little bit tonight. I asked my crew members. I said, give me some questions that you would want Robbie himself to answer. I said, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Robbie's obviously the food plot expert. I'm your typical guy. I box things. Like I was working on a show today. You know, I closed that box. Now I opened up the Antler King box to talk to you, and I pulled that out.
Right.
You know, and that's
but what you just sent me on a text message, you had the Antler King box opened up then too, because there's a lot of Antler King content that you just sent me. So
yeah. I mean, look, man, you guys, we've worked together for, gosh, I don't even know how many years it's been now, almost as long as the show's been on the air.
absolutely,
And,
yeah.
you know, first and foremost is the truth. It's the best product I've ever worked with. And I have, my cousin Ryan can tell you the same. I have not the best soils. I always have to work on my soils and whatnot. And my Antler King still always, I mean, it's good seed, man. It really, truly is. And, you know, you had asked me what was our topic? Was our number one go-to food plot for the season, I think.
Choosing the right annual plot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And, you know, I think you probably know what I'm going to say. I always go, I know you love clover, but I'm a honey hole / radish guy, right?
Yep. And absolutely.
There's a lot of reasons for it. If you want to get into that, it's, you know, like, and I did take some notes just so you know, because there's no way I can remember all of these things and with everything else going on, right? But, you know, there is like 5 varieties of turnips and brassicas in that itself. And, you know, a lot of times guys say, like, I think most people are led to believe that brassicas aren't palatable for the deer until after a frost. And
which is wrong.
Which is wrong, exactly. My deer start feeding on it right away. So there's that. And then they continue all the way through the season. That's why I like that particular blend is it's, you know, I have several farms with several different setups, of course, but when the wind's right, I know I can go to a honey hole / radish plot and there's going to be good deer on it. It's just how it is. You know, no matter what time of the year it is. Now, but we do have other things as well. I mean, I have grain, as you know, I have beans and corn as well. And I do love to go mid-September and overseed oats through all my beans and the standing corn, actually, whenever because it starts to wilt up by that point and defoliate, right? So sunlight can still get to the dirt, you know. So, I mean, that's really there's no secrets to it, man. You know, I mean, that's what I like. I know you're a clover guy, and I always plant my clovers right next to bedding as a staging plot. And, you know, we do hunt them a little bit, of course, but it's more or less because it's such high protein. It's for deer season, but it's really for the springtime. They get that hard winter.
It is.
You know, and they get out of bed. The first thing they go to is that green food source, and they just get loaded with protein, and it helps with everything. It helps with general health for all the deer, not just the bucks, you know.
It is. Absolutely. And you know, you talk about the honey hole and slam dunk. I'm a diehard honey hole slam dunk guy. I know you like the honey hole with the radish, but honey hole and slam dunk mixed together has been my annual choice for probably 20 years almost. I mean, it's been crazy. Honey hole was way before slam dunk, and then when we brought out the slam dunk, I started mixing them together. And I mean, not only is it a great attraction for the deer and for a huntover plot, but the nutritional value, you get them deer fattened up through the winter. You can't ask for a better mix than your brassicas with your radish and turnips and all that. You can't ask for a better one.
No, and I you know, when I was working with Todd back in the day, he sent me some ideas too, and he loves the idea of doing slam dunk mixed with kale. And kale, and it's kind of I want to say it's a secret or anything like that, but I mean, it's kind of a secret on some of my plots that I will have just strips of kale. Robbie, I can't explain it. I started doing that when I talked to Todd, and wow. But the only issue I have, they feed it out so hard and so heavy that it's like you got to have something else mixed with it, otherwise it's gone.
Oh yeah, they destroy it. Yeah.
Well, my deer numbers are ridiculously high, though. I mean, they really are. Right. My farmer hates me.
That's a good problem to have sometimes, though.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, I chunk out grains, right? Mm-hmm. The way the whole my main farm. Let's talk about that for a second. So the main farm is set up, right? I put no food plots on my borders, of course, right? I'm trying to keep everything to the centers. My neighbors also hate me because I have all the food, and I basically, it could be anywhere from, I try not to do less than 1.5 acres to 2 acres. It sounds like a lot because a lot of guys can't do that. But if I don't do that, the deer will just smash it. It'd be gone. So we have to go that route. And then I'll go in there, and sometimes I will overseed oats in there, obviously, but sometimes I'll overseed other products as well. It just, depends if I got a rain coming, how hard the soil is, all different types of things, But
absolutely.
I'm going to start asking you questions. Do you mind?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm here.
Yeah. Well, because you are definitely the food plot guy for sure. If
I don't know the answer, I'll make it up.
Well, and just so everybody knows, if I have questions, I call Robbie. That's just how that works. So, okay. So this is from one of my guys, Mac Rakes. He says, I want to know what he thinks is the ideal 5 to 7 day window to plant in August to maximize palatability if we're trying to kill a deer in the first 5 to 10 days of October. That's the first question.
Yeah. I'm planning my favorite time to plant, and I take it he's Illinois boy.
Yeah, he's by Springfield.
Okay, by Springfield. I'm looking. I will always try to get mine in for that early season by the 15th of August. So I'm shooting the 1st through the 15th is when I'm always planting my annuals, especially my brassica plots. I don't want to plant them any earlier, and I really don't want to get in too late. You got till Labor Day, but I like that first 2 weeks of August, if Mother Nature is allowing it, if we got the moisture, not in a drought like normal, the whole 9 yards.
Right.
But with the slam dunk, the fall, winter, spring, the Southern Greens, the Grade 8, them mixes right there that have a lot of early season attraction. Them are best planted that first couple of weeks of August for what I'm calling a first couple of weeks of October hunt-over plot. That's just going to be killer.
So let me get to the second part of this question. Okay. Let's see here. Well, he answered, and what would he plant, of course. Then he says, also, when and what would he plant to hunt for big deer, basically, kill big deer post-Thanksgiving window of late November to early December?
I will never hunt a plot unless it has honey hole in it. The honey hole is my number one late season food source. That's been my go-to. The Grade 8 is actually very good too because it does have the honey hole mixed in. But when I'm looking for a late season only, now again, it's going to depend on the plot as well, because if you have a big enough area that you don't have to worry about the deer destroying the honey hole prior to that time, then I'm going to go with honey hole. I'm probably going to mix some slam dunk in it or some radish in it, like you talk about. I want them two definitely in it, them 5 to 6 varieties of brassicas. But now if I'm hunting a small area, a small plot that the deer are just going to destroy it out, I'm going to look more into like the fall, winter, spring that has a cereal rye in it that's actually going to continue growing as them deer eat it until that first frost hits. So it's going to offer a lot of good forage there. But if I got an area, an acre, acre and a half or bigger, that I know the deer aren't going to destroy the honey hole early, I'm planting honey hole for sure, and then I'll probably mix the slam dunk in with it.
So, real quick, to explain why I like radishes in the honey hole, because I know radishes are also a brassica, which there are brassicas in honey hole, right? But it's a different type of brassica, right?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
That's why. And honestly, the deer love them. What is honey holes? A pH level for honey holes, I think 6.0. Is that right?
6.0.
You really want?
Yep.
Yeah. And radishes they're like really wide, aren't they? Like 5.5 pH.
Five and a half easy. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So they grow fast. That's one of the reasons they grow fast. Deer love them.
Yep.
That's why I do that, right? And sometimes.
Yeah. And truthfully, with putting radishes in, what I have found, the deer normally, if you add radishes to honey hole, now in my area, I found the deer will hit the radish tops more than they will the honey hole, and kind of leave that honey hole for that later season if you got a good amount of radishes mixed in with them. They like that. The radish tops are a lot sweeter, so they like them better in the early season. But it just, again, it depends on the number.
And if anybody wants to know, this as well, the equation is really basically for every acre of honey hole, it's 1 pound of radishes.
1 pound radish. Yes.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty standard across the board. But so that's a big one for me, right? Next question. Okay. Eric Felker, one of my guys. Frost seeding, ideal window for the best results.
Now, here is my thing. I'm just going to throw a couple of them out there. I'm not a big frost seeding guy when it comes to overseeding into a clover plot. I would rather wait for that. I'd rather wait for that plot to green up in the spring and then overseed the light spots during a rain or prior to a rain, because what a plot looks like in the wintertime when you're getting that ideal time of the freeze at night, fall during the day, sucks that seed in. During that time period, your plot will look completely different then and a lot better than what it will when the spring green up starts in. So taking a chance of overseeding a food plot with too much seed, you can do that by overseeding or frost seeding, not knowing exactly how much seed you need to put down. And the worst thing ever is to overseed. But now if you're going into frost seed into a new stand where you're wanting to, like I do every year, I'll go in all my brassica plots that I plant, I will go in and frost seed clover into them to help the deer and help the soil, put the nitrogen back in the soil. I'll do it every year on my annuals in the spring. So I'm looking for that time when the winter's about gone, we still getting a warm up during the day. It's stalling that soil out on top, but at night it's going back to freezing, and that just sucks that seed right in. It's the best time ever. And then here within a few weeks, your cold nights are going to start warming up. So I just want enough there. I don't want to do it too early. A lot of people do. That seed will lay there dormant, but there was no reason to do it that early. Wait till that cold spell is just about gone for the winter. Fall during the day, freeze at night, works out perfect.
That was a detailed answer. I like it. And then he wants to know, in your opinion, the spring planting best dates to combat weed/grass competition.
If you're worried about weed and grass control, it's best to plant in the fall of the year. And when you do that, you're pretty much just getting ready for the next spring, just because you're not going to get the growth that you really want for that first hunt season, that fall. I'm a diehard spring planting guy. I love to plant my clovers in the spring. I want the most forage air I can in the first fall, but I am going to deal with weed and grass issues because the first year clover is always the ugliest one right there. So if you like dealing with that stuff, maintaining it like I do, I'm planting in the spring. But if you wait till the fall of the year, like here where I'm at now, if I'm planting the 1st of August to Labor Day, I'm not going to have as much of a weedy mess that I would by planting in the spring. But you're just not going to have all the forage that you probably really want for that first hunt season.
Yeah. Okay. Andy Robertson, another guy from Springfield area. That's actually Mac Rick's filming partner. He says, what variety of plots does he personally hunt each week of the season?
I always have clover on my properties, the trophy clover. I'm a diehard clover guy. But now when it comes to hunt over plot, again, I've always been a honey hole slam dunk guy. I love that. I still plant it. But 3 years ago when testing this Southern Greens mix, and I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but the Southern Greens mix, which is actually a variety of collard greens. The brassicas are in there, collard greens and radishes. So when it came to testing that, we made this mix for the down south. We started testing it here, Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, and we found out the deer loved it. We made it with collard greens because collard greens do not take a frost to turn sweet. As they start growing, they're sweet. So we wanted something to give the south. Well, I started testing it, and I started out with a half acre. Now I'm up to 3 acres of it because the deer destroyed it. Every deer that I took, the wife took, or soon to be wife took, and my daughter took this last fall came off Southern Greens out of the exact same blind. They will go through the honey hole and eat it just like they normally do. They pick through the clover like they always do, but they will hammer that Southern Greens. Now, I will tell you about Southern Greens. It's not meant for a quarter-acre plot with a lot of deer because they will literally destroy it. But if you'd have asked me this 3 years ago, I would have said it's honey hole and slam dunk all the way. I actually took ground away from my honey hole and slam dunk for the Southern Greens. It's not a sales pitch. It's just something that I cannot believe how good the deer here in Central Illinois, they just hammer.
That is good to know, Robbie.
Yeah. Yeah.
That just went right in my back pocket. Like nobody else heard that, right? That was just me.
No, so. that is. Okay. I'm not kidding you. That has become one of my favorite mixes. It's easy to grow. Winter wheat, oats, collard greens, radish. You can't beat it. I mean, it's in the next spring, everything starts greening up with the winter wheat and everything. The deer are hammering it. Turkeys will love it. Shot turkey in it this spring. Oh yeah, that's a good one.
What? Okay, what's a collard? I mean, I guess I'm dumb. What's a collard green?
A collard green looks just like your normal brassica plant, like you'll see in your honey hole. This the normal, like a trophy rape, like the rape seed. It's a big leafy plant, and it's a brassica, but it does not take a frost to turn it sweet. It will literally, as soon as it starts coming up, the deer will start eating it. So that's what I mean. In a smaller plot, the deer will just start hammering it like they do soybeans.
So, yeah, with high deer density numbers, you feel like a 2 acre plot's big enough or no?
I would say I got pretty high deer numbers, so, and I'm getting through with her. I would say 2 acres would be good, but I would probably want to have some other supplemental around somewhere for the later season, like your honey hole or slam dunk.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Like my feed plots are basically stuff like my feed plots. They're coming out, feeding through that, and working their way to the big ag fields.
Right? Yes, and that's exactly how I'm using it. They actually come out of my neighbor's sanctuary, come across my hay field, they hit my plots, they go to the ag field. They do the same thing coming back to going to bed in the morning. So I mean, it's the exact same thing. Yep.
Huh. Man, I learned something, Robbie. That's cool.
That's a good one.
Let's see here. Also, Jake Rappa. Hang on. Andy Robson had a second question here. He says, this is a good question as well. With fertilizer prices at an all-time high, what's the most cost-effective option for an acre plot? I say Plot Max, Jolt. It's a lot cheaper than.
It's really going to determine on how depleted your soil is. If it's, I mean, take a soil test. If it's really depleted, you're going to have to spend the money and get some granular on. If it's not too bad depleted, you can't beat the Jolt and the clover fuel depending on what you're planting. I mean, that Jolt bottle right there will do 2 acres with 20 gallons of water. I mean, that does wonders. So on all your annuals that we're talking about right now. And so, yeah, that would be the cheapest way to go, as long as it's not depleted down to, like you're on your 3rd year of brassicas and they are sucking every bit of that soil dry. You need to get some good granular back in there to get it built up. But if that's not the case, the foilers will do, I mean, $30 for 2 acres. You can't beat that.
Right. And as far as your plot match goes, I mean, you can do that right before you're planting, like the day of, right?
Yep.
And spring or fall. And plot max what is that? I forget what it's a carbon.
It's humic acid. Yep.
Yeah.
It's humic acid. Yeah. And you're right. You can spray it prior to, the day of planting. You can spray it afterwards too. I always spray mine twice. I will, if I'm going to go in, which I'm getting ready to go do after all this rain gets over with, all my clover that I planted in my annual plots, I'll go in and spray and kill them off. So when I go to kill them off, I will mix the Plot Max right in with it and let it kill them off, let that soak into the soil, do its job. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll come back, turn the soil and start planting. So, yeah, I mean, you can put that on a month ahead of time with no issue at all. So then I'll go back in when my plants are getting 3 to 4 inches tall, when I'm going to go in and hit it with my Jolt fertilizer on my annuals or my clover fuel on my clover in the spring that I plant. I'll mix a bottle of the Plot Max in right with my foiler fertilizer, my clover fuel, or my Jolt, whichever one I'm doing. So I'll just make a 1-pass application and put the Plot Max down and the fertilizer at one time.
And weed killer if you need to. Because you can mix that. Because you can mix both those weed killer.
Especially on clover in the spring planting. Oh yeah, I should own stock in weed killer. I'm telling you right now. So, but yeah, they all go in together. Yes. Yep.
I understand. I mean, trust me.
We're
basically deer farmers, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, I mean, it's what it's boiled down to. Then my last question for one of my guys, Jake Rappa. He does on a small piece. He's on the Missouri side, but he's along the Mississippi River, right? Okay. He says wants to know what you feel like is the ideal food plot for a river bottom ground surrounded by corn and soybeans, because he's got massive fields and he's got a long levee, as you can imagine, so the fields don't flood. Yep. And then he's on the other side of the levee. He's got, I don't know, maybe 20 acres wide by however long, of timber, little openings he can plant. So any thoughts on that?
In a sunnier area where it can get some good sun, the slam dunk works very well in the fall, winter, spring. Radishes love sandier soil. So both of them mixes actually have the radishes in with them. So I've had the best luck with them two products on sandier soil. They work very well. They mature out good. You can get some good bulbs on them, or tubulars if you want to say, with the radishes. But I would stick with something like the fall, winter, spring, or the slam dunk. You could throw a little bit of kale in there as well. Kale would do all right in there. Them would be my two go-to ones there. If I had to pick one or the other, it would be the slam dunk. Slam dunk would be my favorite. And just because there's more tonnage of food there than what the fall, winter, spring is going to offer. So I always go with the most tonnage that I can get.
So that explains that, right? There's no reason to put a perennial in something like that, because it could flood, right?
It could flood, right?
Yeah. So you're just going with annuals and something like that. And you answered the question on there, which Scott Withington asked, do radishes like sandy soil? Yes.
Yeah, yes, they do. They love sandy soil. Yep.
Yeah.
And sandy soil and even some rockier soil. I got a lot of guys down in Kentucky planting them, and some, nasty, rocky, old tobacco beds. And it's amazing how good them radishes do in a rockier soil.
Yeah. And looking up here, I'm looking at, like Mark Coleman said, Plot Max is a soil conditioner. It is, but it can. This is one of the notes I took today, just to explain that it can also be mixed with contact weed killers, but it can increase the amount of minerals and nutrients in the soil by over 50%. And then going back to the Jolt, if I'm not mistaken, Jolt is something that you put on every 30 days. That sound right?
Yeah, for best results. Yes.
Best results.
I always, for best results. The good thing about Jolt is, unless you're in a drought situation, the nitrogen level that we have in Jolt will not burn your plants. The plants are only going to benefit. Now, if you get into a drought situation, you're not getting any kind of rain, it'd be like throwing urea down on the ground. It'd just burn your plants up. But if you're getting moisture, you're not going to burn with that. And then with the clover fuel, there's no way possible to burn with clover fuel when you're spraying your clover plots or your alfalfa, soybeans, peas, anything like that. You will not burn with any of them. So that's a good thing. You really got to watch a foliar fertilizer that is very high in nitrogen, because you can smoke that plant if you're not getting the moisture, especially in the heat of the day.
It's almost like if it's dry out and you don't get enough moisture when the rain right away and you do a granular fertilizer, you can screw up your plants pretty quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so you can burn them in a hurry.
Yeah. Yep. I learned that lesson the hard way. So
I've been there, done it. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done that. Yeah.
They have. I get calls all the time on it. Yep.
Well, you live and you learn. And then, as far as I've had people ask me over the years that they watch the show and they see I'll have standing beans, but I do have a lot of green out there. And they're like, what are your greens and your beans? And like I told you earlier, a lot of times I will walk through mid-September and I will overseed. And I go heavy with it because I realize that the germination rate is not going to be high, right? Because you're just straight up overseeding beans with oats. Yep. And I've done it with honey hole and whatnot, and the kale. The kale seems to come up pretty. The kale seems like it would grow on a sidewalk crack, honestly, to me.
Yeah, growing a rock with dirt on it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oats are very close to the same, honestly,
It
the
is.
reason
Yes. Yep.
I don't go any earlier than mid-September in my neck of the woods than to do the oats because I don't want the oats to mature. That's the last thing I want, right?
Right.
I only want them to get
Yes.
about 6, maybe 8 inches tall at the most. And the
Yes.
deer seem like it. And also my neck of the woods, which I'm a little further south than you. I'm still in Illinois, but I'm not. I don't know what you'd call me. I'm not in Southern Illinois, but I'm not in Central Illinois. I'm just on a line.
You're kind of right on the line, yeah.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, my oats stay green for a very long time. So I'm trying to say, as long as the weather's somewhat mild,
Right.
So they don't start to yellow up, So I mean, that's really the biggest tricks for us. And then I know we're starting to work with some of the alfalfa stuff. But alfalfa is, what is alfalfa? 7.0 pH. I mean, it's
yes, it's the most finicky plant you can plant. Yep.
Yeah, and
it is.
I don't want to. As crazy as it sounds, I love it because deer love it, but I don't want to risk certain spots knowing that the pH has to be a certain amount.
Right.
Like, so we're doing that on a couple of the smaller tracks, and we're just sampling it just to see how well it actually does. It'll be interesting. I got trail cameras on it the whole 9 yards, so it'll be interesting.
That's
and you never know. Yeah, never know. We might end up shooting a good one over it. But
you might. You might.
Yeah.
Well, and you brought up a good point there that a lot of people probably don't realize, and I've talked about it before, but oats is one of them things that you do not want to plant too early. You don't want to plant them with your brassicas, stuff like that, because you don't want them maturing out. You don't want them heading out. No. So, in theory, with me, and I found the best where I'm at, and it's going to depend on Mother Nature too, but I always plant my oats like our lights out variety. I always plant our oats a month later than I plant my brassicas. And I have very good success that way. I never plant my oats prior to Labor Day. It's always after. It's always a September planting, just because I want them young and vulnerable. I don't want them heading out. I don't want them getting too stemmy. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake, is in planting them early and then wonder why the deer just don't nail him. They're just not as powerful for them.
I've heard it. Like I said, man, they walk right through it. They don't even eat it. I'm like, well, did you plant it? I planted it at the same time I planted my brassicas. Like, that doesn't work.
Yep. It doesn't work. It does not.
And that's a lot of guys don't know. It's just trial and error for a lot of.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, hell, that's how I learned 90% of the stuff I got. And I still do trial and error just because I like learning that way. I want to know what works and what doesn't. So that's just how I am.
I just like it when it works, though. Like,
me too.
That's great. Yeah.
Yep.
But, no, and then I guess this year we have. I call it the big farm because I do have a bigger tract of ground. I'll tell you guys, it's a little over 700 acres in one tract in Illinois, which is hard to come by. I'm trying to think about the amount of food plots that I have on there, because there's roughly 330 acres or so of tillable dirt. So the rest is timber. Trust me, there is no more room to try and get a food plot in anywhere. Just not. We've maximized it all. Okay.
Right.
And I still say I only have, on that particular farm, maybe 8.5 acres, maybe.
Right.
But it holds them, But like I said, I'm also leaving the grain, and I'm overseeding oats in there, so I have a double food plot, right? So whenever it's cold, obviously they're going to go to some of the grains in that, if they're in that neck of the woods on that plot. And if it warms up above, I always say if it warms up above 30 degrees, they're in there basically. They'll eat some of the beans, don't get me wrong, but they're in there eating them oats,
Right.
So same thing with standing corn, right? So I mean,
go ahead.
I'll say, do you leave any grains on your farms or not?
I don't on my farms unless I'm using cereal grain, but I am completely surrounded by grain. So, I mean, literally, I have, and that's what I was getting ready to say, a lot of people hear people talk about big acreages, which some of us have it, some of us don't. A lot of people, they have a property, and let's start this over. I have a property that I would say that is one of my properties is set up where probably 60% of the people I know, that's what they're working with. They got a small piece of property. They can't put very many acres of plots in. This one property that I have that I've killed a lot of deer off of, it's actually it's a 40-acre farm. It's got a 12-acre hayfield on it, and then it's got uh, and it's only 28 acres of timber. On that farm, I only have combined 1 acre's worth of food out of 3 plots on that farm, and it's a power line. So I got a power line on the north side, and it goes through to the south side across the creek. So there's about an acre's worth there. And when you're working with something like that, especially the good thing around here is it is surrounded by ag. So there is a lot of grain. You really just want to pick and choose the proper thing to plant in it, so you will have food there all year long. And
Right.
pretty much you're making a pass through area. You're not trying to feed every single deer that's on that property. You just want to have that opportunity to get a shot off when them deer come through it, or come, if you're hunting on the plot, if you're hunting off of it, whatever you're doing. But like cereal grain. Cereal grain is an excellent fall attraction, just like our fall, winter, spring has in it, because it will continue to grow as the deer eat it down until that first heavy frost. Where a lot of your plants that you plant, as soon as they eat it down, it's gone, it's done. So that's why I like on them type of properties, I like incorporating some perennial clovers in it, like the trophy clover or the game changer, just so them deer will have something that's continued growing to eat. So I know a lot of guys look at a small property and they think, well, I got an 1/8 acre plot. I'm going to plant honey hole, and that's all I'm going to plant because I hear everybody talking about how much they love it. That will not withstand the deer pressure that the cereal grains and stuff like that will. They will just wipe it out.
Right.
So, I mean, no matter what, if you have a big piece or a small piece, it's just picking the right thing to plant that's going to allow you to have the tonnage of food there that you need for them to stop by, get a bite, hopefully get shot at before they get to the ag fields.
Hopefully get shot at.
Hopefully get shot at.
So the show I just sent you, it's called Early Season Brute or something like Illinois Brute. That whole episode is based around my cousin Ryan has an 84-acre tract of ground. Okay.
Yep.
And he's had it since 2020. So this is I think this would be his 5th year or whatever that adds up to. And it started off as he bought it was a logged piece, so it was thicker than peanut butter, right? There was a lot of deer on it.
Yep.
But it had some food plots, but he just didn't like the design of it. We looked at it and I was like, yeah, let's change some things. So he had people come in, they moved some, they did a little bit of logging here and there. Anyway, we expanded the food plots, adjusted a few things, and on 84 acres, he's been able to shoot a mature buck every year, and has his family they have a great time. His kids go out. His wife loves it. He put in a lake, and then he just put in another small piece, a body of water that actually it narrows up the deer to go through a gap, but there's a pond dam here and water here, and he's got a trail cam on it, and he's got I think he told me he's got like 9 bucks every day going back and forth in Bella right now.
Right.
And I guess the point is that a lot of people think that you have to have, 700 acres to shoot really big deer all the time. That's not, I always say, and I mean this, I have a smaller piece. I'll take the right 20 acres over 500 acres every day of the week. Every day of the week,
Yep.
It's just a matter of, having it, finding it, and being able to hunt it the right way. Because even at 700 acres, it can be difficult to hunt, especially depends on your access, right? Which leads me to the barricade and things like that. So, we set up barricade. It is entry and exit to keep those deer coming into those plots regularly is a thing. It's a legitimate thing to have barricade.
Yeah.
Probably everybody on here has sat till an hour after dark or more because you had deer in a food plot, and you're just like, okay. And then you either get tired of them being out there and you get down and you try to slip away and spook some, or you got barricade planted and you get right around them.
Get around them. Yep.
The thing of it is that alone was a game changer. And I actually started designing kill plots, gosh, I don't know, a long time ago. And but I was using standing corn. I would use Milo, things like that, right? And we still do that in the plot itself, right? Because we want as much food in the plot, right? But I would use standing corn blockers to get out. Now the barricade actually grows taller than the corn. And if you plant it wide enough, you plant it wide enough, it's plenty thick. And I mean, that right there is a serious game changer for guys that are. Guys got to be pretty serious about their deer hunting, which most I would say the guys on here are very serious about their deer hunting.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
I mean, do you utilize barricade quite a bit?
I do a couple different ways. One farm I do to funnel deer and to get out of. The other one, the smaller one that I was just talking about, the 28 acres of timber with the hayfield, I use it mostly for a shield to get in and out of, not the funnel. Now, which is kind of funny what I'm getting ready to tell you, because a lot of people, I know I'm in the business to sell seed, but I have found, and with talking to people, doing my seminars, stuff like that, and people just shake their head at me when I tell them, there is sometimes that planting more food could actually hurt you than help you. And what I mean by that, I get asked a lot, because actually during my seminars, I will put up a picture, an aerial of my spot where I hunt, and it shows my 12-acre my 12-acre hayfield, which is a grass hayfield. And they all ask me, well, you only got an acre's worth of food here. Why in the world aren't you tearing up that hayfield and planting? Well, for many years, up to about 6 years ago, they planted ag in it, but the deer would wipe it out. But the deer bed on this sanctuary that this anti-hunter has to the side of me, when I have food out there that the deer want, they walk out of that thicket, they put their head down, and it's after dark before they get to me. So I leave it standing grass hay, because the deer will come out and they know there's a road down there. And I was going to barricade it off, but I know how skittish them deer are of that road and cars going by. They will come right across that field to my plots, just like that when they step out of the woods. So when I mean planting too much food can hurt you, I found that hurting me. So that's why I do not plant that 12-acre hayfield or even anything out there, because I don't want them deer stepping out of that woods 250 yards away from me, which I watched him for many years till dark, and me just sitting there shaking, praying he had come across.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that area there, I got a big banks blind on, and my plot, actually, I am overlooking the hayfield, but I'm in office chairs in there where we can turn around, and I got a southern green plot here. I got a trophy clover plot over here. Around the bend is my honey hole and slam dunk. So we can watch the deer come across, or cut back behind us on the power line. We just turn around on our chairs, open them windows, and that's how we shoot our deer. That's where our deer got shot this last year. But if I have food out there, they just stage out there 200, 300 yards away from me. And I found this too is very interesting in Wisconsin, especially when I was living up there, all the logging roads. Everybody's got logging roads through their properties. Yeah. And they're always asking me, we set on food plots and we don't see any deer. They're on our logging roads. Well, they're planting all their logging roads with food. Well, I said, yeah, the deer aren't going to come in them big open areas if they got the food and you're planting all these roadways. I said, quit planting them roadways and just have the food in the area where you're going to kill one at. So that's two ways I kind of look at it, that too much food can hurt you. It's good for the deer, but it's hard to hunt it because they can be anywhere on that property.
And that's where barricade comes into play, right? If guys want to put your food in the plot and then figure out how to get in and out and barricade yourself, right? So you can get in and out quietly and without them seeing you or smelling you, of course. I made the mistake on a farm. I first got this one farm and I had two food plots actually too close together, which same thing. I was like, man, I got the spots to put the food. I'm just going to pour it to them. Well, I would sit in one food plot and I could see the other one. Yeah. And you just sit there and watch them. And the reason they're over there because the wind's perfect for them. That's why I was over here, because the wind was perfect for me. Yep. So you gotta make the deer make a decision for you sometimes, right?
Well, how many times I know you've heard it, because I've heard it a million times, especially with cell cameras now, but you hear it all the time. I was sitting in this food plot and I had deer on camera in the other one. That's it's just kind of, you don't know where the deer you just don't know.
Yeah. You know? Cell cameras are a blessing and a curse, brother. No,
my Stacy, the soon-to-be wife, this year, I'll be looking at camera pictures on my phone. I start shaking my head. She goes, "Let me guess." I'm like, "Yep, the other property they're on." She goes, "Why don't you turn them things off?" I'm like, "I can't."
I mean, I've gone so far as to actually taking notes, right, as to where they are. I have. If the guy saw how extravagant my hard drives were full of trail cams of individual bucks to really study them,
Yep.
Sometimes I can't make heads or tails out of them because some bucks are just nomadic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll end up in like for example, a buck was in my Southwest food plot it was 7:15 in the morning. This is 3/4 of a mile through the timber, like an hour later, and yes, it was the same deer. He was in that plot checking doves. So that guy was deer like that. You almost have to just get lucky with deer like that.
You do.
I like it when I find bucks that are, which I can dial them in with food plots, because now that I put my plots where because I know the farm so well, I put the plots where I'm going to maximize the opportunities is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
And I just set my trail cameras up, and I'm going to sound like a lazy hunter, but I basically leave the deer alone. And I let my trail cameras do all the work. And I just, people say, yeah, well, deer can walk past the trail camera or behind the camera. Yeah, they can. But, the thing about it is very rarely do I have a buck show up in a food plot that I don't know is there. So I'm pretty much, I'm getting 99.9% of the bucks that I'm after on my trail camera, right? And that's also part of knowing your farm and how they like to come into the plot. And it's also designed to come into the plot that way because that's just the way I set it up. But there's a lot. It goes pretty deep. If a guy really wants to get deep on all that sort of, it goes pretty deep. One individual plot. There's where are the deer coming from, how they want to come into it naturally. Can I hunt them if they want to come into it naturally that way, or can I kill them? And if I can't, I got to adjust them somehow. So whether that's like dropping some trees, right, and then whatever I got to do to push them over to the other side, giving them a blocker to walk along, like going back to use standing corn for blockers to get in and out. Well, that was also a blessing and a curse because guess where the deer didn't end up going at dark? They go right in that corn and start to feed, and I'm supposed to try to get out of there. So, but I got a Southwest plot. We've killed a lot of deer on camera on this one particular plot. It is the absolute most dialed in anything I've ever had. It just is because I can only hunt them on south winds, which we actually get a lot of south winds even in late January or mid-January. And the deer, that's the closest plot I have to a neighboring property too. It's probably within 150 yards of a neighboring property, but it's timber, my timber for, I don't know, 100 yards. And then it goes down through a creek and then it starts turning into his timber anyway. But the deer bet on him. Okay. And he knows it, but somehow, and he hunts them, but he never, he never shoots my big deer. They're not my deer until they step on my property. Then they're my deer.
Right.
Because if he shot him, I'd get along with it. I'd just be like, hey man, congratulations. Here's some sheds off the deer. Here's some trail cams if you want. I don't care about that kind of stuff. If he shot him, good for him. But that is so dialed in that I don't go down there unless I have an exact south wind. And every time I have an exact south wind, I didn't hunt it 2 seasons ago. I didn't have any bucks down there. There was a younger buck down there, but it wasn't old enough. I got an old buck down there finally. He was down there every year, and he finally started showing up mid-December, and we finally got a south wind. And I didn't go down there the entire deer season. The number one spot on this farm, I did not go down there the entire season until December 27th, and I went in and I killed him. And got lucky, right? But just to give it credit to Antler King, hell, there was, I don't remember. I think there was like 37 deer in the plot. So yeah, I got in super early. How I go in to get in there, I go across a big open field, and then I just walk straight at I know the spot, right? I walk straight at it, and I get in there and I get set up. That deer, may God strike me dead, that deer was probably bedded 40, 50 yards to my east in the same tree line that I'm in. How he didn't see me walk in, I don't know, but I got away with it. And all these deer piling in, and that plot had standing beans and honey hole in it, and oats. And I had honey hole out on the front edge, and I had oats in with the beans. And he got up, and he was going to the honey hole because he was working his way that way. And it's also the mouth of the food plot goes to a bigger ag field, which was really nothing out there. But it's all the deer kind of get up, and feed around. Some come in from that way. But he was working his way out to the mouth of that field. I was thinking he was going to feed through that honey hole. He didn't get the chance. He got to 35 yards and was standing there perfect, as pretty as a picture. And I shot him. And that deer that was an old buck. I mean, that deer was at least 7 years old. I mean, I got sheds off of him for years. I'd have to go back. He's either 7 or 8. And
wow.
I called him the old 10, and he's lost his 4s. They were just nubs, right? And then, I mean, I don't know. He's had heavy mass. I mean, I mean, very happy with the deer. I was after a different buck that I called Big Louie, which I actually shot last year. And Big Louie that year, or every year, he doesn't live on me until the rut. And he comes over, and around Halloween every year, I start getting trail cams of him on the north west. I got a horseshoe shaped food plot in there, all kinds of stuff, and he starts showing up in there. It's like he knows. It's funny how bucks do that. He knows that area is where he's going to rut. Those does pop first, come into heat, and he's going to be. And he's 190-inch deer, is a big deer, and he was old. Well, and I missed him twice in 2 years, just so you guys know. I'm not. I mean, it happens. That's all I can say. And
absolutely.
After the rut's over, say roughly mid-December, vanishes. And I found out why. My neighbor across the road has a bunch of cattle, and he feeds them a bunch of minerals and corn every day. And he called me, he texted me. He said, "Hey man, that big buck you're after is over here eating. Come over here and shoot him." I'm like, I am not doing that. This is Illinois. So never had a game violation. Don't plan on it. So so I just basically have to when that happens, you're done until the next season. So you go after different deer. That's why I went down that other plot, shot that other deer. But the beautiful part of it is that plot I'm talking about, that southwest plot, I've shot. And I got lucky to figure it out that I wanted to put it there. I thought, man, I need to get a plot down on this end of the farm because it's really far from all the other plots. I know that there's a lot of deer down here because I would glass it. And then I'm just put a plot right here. Well, I got lucky. I got really lucky. Then I adjusted the plot, not moving it, adjusted how I planted it, and adjusted how they come into the plot, right? They want to come in a certain way. I dropped a few trees, moved them down a little bit so they come out more in front of me, right? When they're coming from across the creek from the north. When I hunt on the south, when they're supposed to come up out of the creek, come through that timber, and come right out to me. And I've killed multiple bucks by that happening. The one I shot in 2022 just happened to be bedded for whatever reason to my east about 50 yards. But I mean, I shot all because of I guess what I'm trying to say about all of this, when deer are conditioned to come to a plot and you have it designed right, and they like what you're planting, they're there every year. So I mean, I started planting that plot in 2017. And I killed that Prince buck. It was like 100 and whatever, big deer. And then I shot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess 5 bucks out of that plot, which is pretty good. I mean, in my opinion, for what it is. And then, that's probably my favorite design plot I've ever had, just simply because of how the deer made it easy for me. It's not rocket science. I mean, deer hunting's deer hunting. And I can go to other plots on the farm and, like, for example, the deer wanted to come out. I had a plot across from where the deer wanted to come out, kind of like you were talking. I mean, but they would never come over there. And then I would have trail cam pictures of them, of course, in the dark. So I thought, okay. I started looking at it, and I couldn't, where the deer really wanted to come out, I couldn't hunt it right with the winds, no matter what. Okay. Because on this one farm, I only have a north entrance. And it's tough, right? I mean, you start getting into mid-November, you start getting a lot of north winds. So what I did the next year, I actually went and moved it up a cove from the deer. And shockingly, all the deer started just coming up out of this other draw and feeding there. And I started killing deer there, right? But I sat there like you for a season going, what the hell are they doing? All the food's over here. So, yeah, I mean, but long story short, we kill a lot of our deer early. We do shoot deer during the rut. I'm not a big fan of the rut. I mean, I like it. It's fun. But I love late season.
Oh,
you got to have the food.
You got to have the food. Yep.
I mean,
there's nothing better than late season with food. I mean, just going out watching them. I mean, it's a whole different ball game. I mean, just going out, and we had that this year. With Stacy being her first time ever hunting, and her sitting in the blind and trying to kind of teach her things on how the deer work. And like on my property, I mean, when we're sitting looking east, the old man's property that has all the deer is to the north of us, kind of northeast of us, on my hayfield edge. And it depends if you got a southeast wind, a southwest wind, no matter what the wind is, an east or west, that's going to determine where them deer come out of that old man's thicket. They always go to that farthest spot to have their nose in that wind for that whole field. So trying to teach her stuff like that, and then it was just crazy trying to and then having the deer pouring out and coming across but she got the biggest kick out of when it did come late season, because she didn't kill her big deer. It was December. I can't remember what it was. Now she'd kill me for not remembering this, but December something. But cold weather set in. They were coming for the food. And she had sat there through the early season, see, 10, 15, 20 deer come across in different places. Then when that cold weather set in, there's 50, 60 deer out in this 12-acre field coming across. She's freaking out. She does. I mean, so having the food there, that's why you see the deer. If that food wasn't on my property, they wouldn't come across there. They'd go a different way to go find food elsewhere, But having the food for late season, that is key right there.
I told you my neighbors hate me. Mm-hmm. That's why.
I got three of them that hate me.
I mean, some of them actually don't like me, but some of them actually joke around with me. I'm like, look, man, just plant more food. I'll help you with what you need. I'm not going to go plant your food for you, but
right.
I don't have a lot of guys will look at a farm like my farm, one of the big one, let's say, and everybody's like, oh man, like there's some sort of magic on that farm. There's no magic on that farm. It's as good as the neighbor's farm or his. I can look at an aerial photo and be like, oh, I'd love to hunt that place. But
yeah, exactly.
But I don't understand that they don't want to put the effort in or what. I'm not here to judge, but
right.
I've had my share of the game warden out there, just put it that way, but things stolen, and I mean the list goes on and on and on. And
on. Well, absolutely.
But, yeah, well, they don't do that anymore. I gave the game warden permission to hunt the farm, so I did. He has permission to hunt the farm.
That's a good way to do it right there.
Become good friends with your game wardens. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I see what the guy, Mark Cohen has. Kyle, what is your food plot strategy as it relates to bedding areas and water sources? The trifecta. Yeah. So, well, I was just talking about that Southwest food plot. It's got the creek for water. It's got their bedding is right across the creek. And I just sit there and wait. I mean, it takes a south wind. They're coming because they're never bothered down there. Now, as far as normally on other parts of the farm, I will put, if I can get close to their bedding, right, and there's something to plant. I was telling you, Robbie, like I always plant clover. Yeah. And but again, yes. Can you hunt it? Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course. But it's my thought process is for the spring, is what that's for. And then other spots to where it's like just makes more sense to have a staging plot, which a staging plot to me is, I don't know what other people call them. I call it basically they get up out of the bed, they walk up, they feed slowly. If you ever notice a deer comes through your food plot, they're in the food plot about 10 minutes and they're all kind of going out to the, I mean, some deer hang, right? Yeah. It's never the one you want.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's always the other ones. But no, my staging plots, I stack them as close to bedding as I can. As far as water goes, I don't have, on the north end of this one particular problem I'm talking about, I really don't have a water source. It's all on the south end. And that worries me. And I've thought about many, many times of putting in some sort of water source close to the food plots, but I'm also worried to death about the midge fly and the
exactly.
That scares me to death, man. So
them small watering holes really scare me. I mean, the little ponds people put in and stuff, because man, if you don't keep them freshened up, you can have a problem in a hurry.
And there are companies like Banks, I think, makes a watering trough and whatnot, which that's great. I got to haul water in once every however often, right? And I just mess with the area. I don't really want to do that.
Right. So, hell, I got a creek that runs through mine, and that creek, when it gets low, I'm scared to death with the creek. just because it's getting too low water. Every year I worry about it. It's a lot of deer.
Good deer over the years because of EHD. The good and the bad about it is, of course, the bad. We all know what the bad is, but the good news is at least you're not hunting a ghost, right?
Right, exactly.
So you just move on. That's just all you can do with it, right? Be mad about it all deer season. I do it about every 3 years because we have EHD about every 3 years, and it's not. Sometimes it's the most we had was, I don't remember. It wasn't that many deer that were dead, but in talking to the neighbors around me, we had like 40-some deer dead. But on my particular farm, I don't wasn't that many. And then my big thing is another one of the reasons I put food toward the centers of the farm. It was 5 or 6 years ago. I don't remember. The big farm. I was shed hunting in there, and I was walking the borders all the way around. I found 13 bucks dead after season was over. Oh, dude, you want to talk about sickening? And they were like 2 and 3 year old bucks. That was just people. I have one neighbor. He's an 80-some-year-old guy, and his wife hunts with him, and then his buddy, who's even older than him, comes up from Kentucky to hunt. And I think if they don't drop when they shoot them, they think they didn't hit them, so they just keep on. So in one draw coming off of him, I found 4 were does and 3 of them were bucks, and one of them was, unfortunately, a really big 9 I was after, and and it. It's just, what are you gonna do, man? That's deer hunting in the United States, So
But we better look at some questions. Let's look at some questions here real quick before we got to get off here. Kevin McFarland, something to plant in some clay soil. Kevin, the best thing I found to plant is a spring planting. It's going to depend on the soil too. If it's 100% solid clay, the crust is what you got to worry about. If you can get a good spring planting of like the Game Changer clover or something like that going, it does very well as long as you can get it emerged up and growing. But the negative thing is, I actually had a guy admit to this the other day. He called me and said, "Man, I planted some clover late. Your clover did not come up. It wouldn't do anything." He finally sent me some pictures. He's in real clay soil. He planted it, got a little bit of rain, and it was like concrete on top. He actually sent me a video of him stomping on the soil and couldn't even hardly break it. So getting it planted early, getting it emerged out of the soil, get it growing, it does very well. If you can get a good wet fall, really you can plant about anything in it that you really wanted. But the thing is just you get that real dry spell, and if it hadn't emerged up yet, you can get a crust that will not allow it to pop up through. So that's the negative thing about a real hard clay soil is it will turn to concrete.
Yeah. I don't have that issue on where I'm at.
I don't either. No.
I feel bad for the guy. You got to really work that kind of stuff.
Yep.
The guy here says it's Mark Coleman loves hunting over them southern greens. I'm telling you, that's gonna be on the list, just so you know. That's it.
Scott's talking. Oh, that southern greens, you're gonna love it. I'm gonna send you some even if you tell me not to. So, old Scott's on here said, "Seems to me that the weeds don't grow very good in a higher pH soil. Is that correct?" Actually, Bud, no. The pH will actually a good pH up to that neutral mark is going to allow the weeds to grow better. It's just going to allow them plants are going to be able to absorb at a 7.0. They're absorbing 100% of the fertilizer, so the nutrients in that soil. So a lower pH. Well, actually, weeds are growing anything. I found that out. I don't care what the pH is; they're going to grow. But in a higher pH, they will grow better. I hate weeds.
I'm looking at this guy. Says I fell in love with kale. Jeff Johnson. I fell in love with kale first time I planted it. Me too. Me too.
Yep.
So they mowed it off like we went after it with a weed trimmer. Yep. Problem is, my deer, I got such high deer numbers that I'm praying for deer season to get here,
Right. Kevin's asking, do you add radishes to honey hole? Yeah, but adding radishes to honey hole is a game changer. You'll really like that.
like I said before, radishes are brassica, and there are brassicas in honey hole, but it's a different type of brassica. I mean, and
yes, it is,
because it's like you said, the top sweeter early, the whole 9 yards. To me, it's like to wrap that whole thing up. If I had to have the perfect blend for me, what I've seen over the years on my farms hunting, how I like to hunt, it's always been that honey hole mixed with radishes. That has been
absolutely.
that's just, and then clovers, of course, but clovers I kind of use them for a different purpose, right? I mean, don't get me wrong.
Absolutely.
We killed deer over clover a lot of in Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa, right? I mean, we do.
Right.
I try to purpose it for other things,
Yep.
But yeah, one guy says, I like the hoodie. Yeah, me too, right? When I get one of them things.
I actually had that made. Yeah. The soon to be mother-in-law just made it for me. So here last fall, I love it. I need to make some, start selling them. So
yeah, I'll say. I also want to let everybody know that you're going to come to the farm sometime mid-August.
Mid-August, yeah.
We're gonna have a guy. We started working with Casco Manufacturing, and that guy, I think his name is John. He's going to be there as well. Like, it's going to be a meeting of the minds. I can't wait for you two to start talking. We're going to film a bunch of that and be able to drop little tidbits of what was talked about for fall planning. Absolutely. And it may be a little late by the time we get up to air, but at least the guys can watch it and put it in their memory bank for next season, right? Type thing.
Absolutely, that's going to be great too. I mean, any information that you can put in the back of your head for the following year. I mean, it's the best thing ever. And that's the negative thing about a lot of the fall food plot stuff is that we're trying to show, and it's by the time we can show it, it's too late. Everybody's already planned it. So, but you just gotta keep it back in there and remember for the next year. And the diehard guys, that's what they're going to do 100%. They're gonna jot it down and they're gonna remember it. So I can't wait to get down there and do that. That's going to be a lot of good content, and we'll be planting a bunch of Southern green. So
hey, you don't have to convince me. That's like you're talking about putting it back in your mind. That's why I say men put things in boxes, and they put it on the shelf, and they pull it off the shelf, and they open it up whenever it's time. So I think it's fine that as long as we have it for them, for sure, so they can put it in their memory bank, right? Plus, we'll be on the show and stuff as well, because that's a big part of what we do with the show is the management side of things, because a lot of shows guys travel and hunt with outfitters, whatever. We don't do that. I mean, we hunt our own stuff without some public hunting. I prefer, just so everybody knows, I prefer to hunt my own private farms. I have no qualms with guys yelling at me for hunting. I got to hunt public. Well, I'm sorry. I mean,
absolutely.
I don't.
And two, I don't know if you announced anything yet or not, but I know I haven't yet. Another thing we can tell the viewers is that you and I have been talking about. It looks like maybe in the spring show circuit, we'll see you in the Antler King booth every once in a while.
Yeah.
So
we yes, I think I'm already booked for 6 shows. I think, and I think you guys are at, I think maybe 5 of the 6.
I'm at 5 of the 6. Yep.
Yeah, and we're getting more into, like, we have a new company that I've started. It's called Premier Whitetail Land Company, and it's basically about consulting and all that good stuff. And just to tell guys, look, for years, I don't want to say I didn't feel like I was worthy, if you will, or whatever. But look, I've done this long enough now, and I've shot enough good deer that I kind of got the game figured out. I'm like, okay, I can help guys now that I have drilled down over. Of course, I've been bow hunting 38 years, right? And I mean, I haven't been in a deer woods since 2000 without a video camera. I started filming for juries like when they were doing DVDs. Okay, that's how long ago that was. Then I filmed for another show for a while with the Wild Outdoors with Jay Gregory. I filmed with those guys for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and I saw what he was doing. I thought, man, I can do my own show. I mean, that's how it started, and here we are 17 or 18 years later. Getting into like that now with Premier Whitetail Land Company, because I just feel like we have enough knowledge between myself and the crew to like really help guys dial stuff in,
Right.
And a lot of it's turnkey stuff that guys don't want to have to mess with. So good
Absolutely.
fit. Plus, it's a good fit with. I mean, it is a good fit with Antler King. It's all part of deer management, man.
It's all part of deer management. And if anybody, like with your show, and you can talk about when it's airing and all that, but just like the episode you just sent me, that's good stuff right there. I mean, that shows what you're doing in them plots. You know, it's not you just sitting over a hunt plot, you're killing a big deer. You're actually showing how you built that to be able to hunt over it.
Right.
So anybody that watches your show, that's something that you don't see on anybody else's stuff. It's all, and don't get me wrong, you're killing big deer too. But at the beginning of the show, you're showing how you get to that point, which is very educational. So pretty much just like the management part.
I appreciate you realizing that, because it's been in my own head. The design of the show is like, how would I want? What do I see in a perfect hunting show? We all know the climax at the end is the big buck getting shot, right? So, but how do we get to that point, right? I mean, like I said, we don't travel outfitter to outfitter. Nothing against outfitters. I mean, I'm sure you have plenty of outfitters by your antler king, right? Nothing against that, especially if you're from another state. You only got 5 days to hunt. I would highly recommend going to a good outfitter, right? But we basically do it like you talked about. We show from the beginning, talk about how we got it done. I'm working on an Iowa show right now with one of my guys, Doug Hampton, and he calls his deer in. It's basically the show turned into, it was about the pre-rut, and now I've actually twisted it into like about calling, because how he had to call this deer in to get it, because the deer walked away, and then he finally brought him in. The deer come in straight down. When it was 8 o'clock in the morning, so his thermals were probably still rising, but the wind was, he said, the wind was blowing right to the deer, but they were probably rising, and the deer come in and he shot him. Big, beautiful buck, 160 some class buck, But anyways, so yeah, good, man. I had a good time. I hope you guys did.
Same here. Yeah. We're already past time, so we better get off here before they kick me off. So, but buddy, I appreciate you coming on here, and you're welcome anytime, man. So,
well, dude, if you need somebody, just call me.
I will. I know that.
I should actually drive to your house and do it sitting there with you.
You just supposed to come here. I got plenty of room.
Okay, that's what I like to hear.
We might get play around the property a little bit. You never know.
You never know. You're going to get to see some of my stuff. So,
heck yes. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate it, guys. Everybody that's on here, I appreciate you guys joining in tonight. And have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Call me, email me, text me, whatever. And Kyle, we'll talk to you later. And everybody else on here, we'll see you in 2 weeks. So, have a good night, guys.
See you guys.
See you guys.